Okay, we'll just give it a couple more minutes while people trickle in. Just wait a little longer before we get started. Perfect. Well, I think we should begin there. Any latecomers, we're going to be sending a video recording out anyway. Yes, welcome everyone to our Up Learn webinar and the official launch of our brand new GCSE Science courses. I'd like to thank you all so much for taking the time to join us today. It's great to have you all here. So for those I haven't met before, my name is Alex. I've been at Up Learn for the past 2 years now, working closely with parents and students to help them get the most out of the platform. Today, we'll be walking you through the GCSE Science courses, how Up Learn works in practice, and most importantly, how the platform helps students build confidence and achieve top grades. So here's a quick overview of what we'll be covering in the next half hour or so. We'll walk you through what our combined science course includes, give you a tour of the platform, and share some practical tips and advice on how to use Up Learn to maximize GCSE grades. We'll also be touching on some of the key principles that underpin Up Learn and explain how these come together to create a world-class learning platform that can guarantee at least grades 8 and 8 in your kids' exams. As always, if you've got any questions, you'll see a Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. Please feel free to add your questions throughout the session. We have had a huge amount of interest so far, so I'm sure there'll be plenty to cover at the end, and we'll answer as many as we can, time permitting. If you've got any more specific or individual questions you'd like to explore in some detail, there will be a booking link at the end of this webinar, so you can schedule a call with me directly. So what is Up Learn? Up Learn is the UK's leading A-level learning platform designed to help students achieve top grades at more than twice the national average. We're incredibly excited to be bringing Up Learn to GCSE students, starting with our GCSE Science course, which is what we're here to talk with you about today. So for the past 10 years, everything we've built has been focused on one clear goal, giving students exactly what they need to succeed, all in one place. At the heart of the platform are our diagnostic tools, which identify gaps in understanding and guide students on what to focus on next. Students then learn through short, engaging instructional videos, interactive quizzes, and AI routing, all mapped directly to the exam specification, in this case, AQA. Progress is really simple to track and understand, giving both students and parents clear visibility into engagement, comprehension, and exam readiness. Today, Up Learn includes over 2,600 hours of content, has been used by more than 480,000 students, and is trusted by over 680 schools across the UK. We currently support A-level subjects too. These include maths, psychology, economics, biology, chemistry, and physics. And now we're expanding into GCSE Science, beginning with our AQA courses. So I'm delighted to introduce our two expert guest speakers for today, Ella and Sky. Sky has been learning Up Learn's chemistry lead for 6 years. He holds a first-class degree in natural sciences from the University of Cambridge and has previously taught at Harris Westminster Sixth Form. In addition to all of this, he collaborates with the Royal Society of Chemistry, creating problems for the UK Chemistry Olympiad. Ella brings over 10 years of experience in education and instructional design. She's a Teach First ambassador, was previously second in charge of maths, and has co-created Up Learn's maths, physics, and biology courses. Just as a quick reminder, please do add any questions to the Q&A box as we go. And with that, over to you, Ella.
Thank you very much, Alex. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. As Alex mentioned, I'm the content design lead at Up Learn, which means I help design and quality assure the content across all of our courses, including our GCSE courses. Today, I'm going to give you a bit of a whistle-stop tour of our content, how it's designed, and why we believe it is an effective way for students to learn. I'm going to be covering quite a lot of content quite quickly, so let's get started. First off, there are 3 parts to our combined science course: biology, chemistry, and physics. Each course is made up of short videos, about 1 to 3 minutes long, information pages, which is about 1 to 2 minutes of reading, and interactive quizzes. And all of the subject information is taught through a mix of these 3 media. Our videos are really popular with our students, and they're carefully designed to be interesting, but not overwhelming. With animation, we can carefully guide where students direct their attention and reduce overwhelm by controlling the amount of information visible at once. This allows us to teach sciences in depth without the cluttered visuals of a textbook page. Our animations also allow us to bring processes to life, so we can show students exactly when and how things happen in the real world, whether that's the movement of particles, classroom practicals, or physics phenomena. I've added this in because it's a really nice example of our approach to equations. Rather than just giving students a formula to memorise and kind of try and figure out the math themselves, we show the information in context and use effects like colour coding, boxes, and dimming to walk students through the process step by step. We love our videos too, but we're not Netflix, and we want content to be engaging as well as fun to watch. So to create an active learning experience, all of our videos include 1 to 2 interactive questions to keep students engaged and help them check their understanding as they go through the lesson. In between videos, there are additional questions that students can use to help consolidate and extend what they've learned. Importantly, our courses are designed to be for everyone. Students can filter content by foundation or higher, depending on which board they are planning to take, and we teach every concept from scratch, extending all the way up to grade 9 material. One of our founding principles is that any student can enjoy and excel at science and reach the grade they're aiming for, regardless of what set they're in, how they found science in the past, or what they might have been told about how well they can do. So no matter their starting point, we aim to support every student to get the grade that they want. Next up, I'm going to give you a very quick tour of the course page so you can see how things are laid out and where everything is. So on the left here, we've got students' up score. That indicates their progress through the course, so students can see how they're getting on overall. And on the right, we've got students' XP, which is a measure of effort. They can set daily XP goals and streaks and receive messages to help them stick to those goals and check in for regular learning. Near the top here, we've got the search bar, which students can use to look for key terms in the content. So for example, if you're looking for a particular part of the spec and can't find it on the main page, they can search for a key term and find every lesson or quiz where that word crops up. The course is divided into topics, and each topic is a group of sections. The circles next to the sections tell me how well I'm doing on those areas so far. So if they're red, that means I'm either getting stuff wrong or I haven't visited that topic in a while. It's a good indicator that I need to go back and rewatch some stuff. If they're green, it means I'm getting the quizzes correct and probably don't need to return to that topic yet. Within each section, there are video lessons interspersed with quizzes. You can see that here with the grey and white blocks. And on the side there, we've got the green ticks, which tell me which activities I've attempted already and which ones I might have missed. If I want to revise or recap part of the section, I can hit the summary button. That gives me a link to all of the key ideas in the topic, and then a short kind of 3-minute video covering the key concepts. So it allows me to kind of dip in and out. As I mentioned before, our courses are designed to be for everyone, and we can achieve that through careful content design and smart routing. So I'm going to give you a quick run through of some of the ways that we build cognitive science and instructional research into our designs. So one way that we do this is by distinguishing really clearly between two types of video. So the top there are the introduction videos. Those give context for a topic. So they're often more like stories that set the scene. And the point of those is to show students why a topic is worth learning about beyond just getting a grade in an exam. We want them to really care about what they're learning. The second type of video are the instructional videos, and they're focused on helping your child understand a new idea. They concentrate on one key idea and teach through examples, and we keep them really focused so that the only things that students are seeing or hearing are things that are helping them to learn. What that means in practice is that we opt not to include unrelated characters in those videos, we don't add unnecessary information, and we keep out background music that might be distracting. We also know from multimedia learning research that students learn better from pictures and spoken words than from pictures and written words. To make use of this, we use dual coding in our videos, which just means that we use a complementary combination of visuals and audio and try to use little to no text. So on the left, if you imagine that there's a voice narrating the key information here, you can see how little text there is on screen. On the right, that's the kind of thing we try and avoid, where there's a lot of words alongside the animation and the graphics. I really want to stress that doesn't mean that we don't get students to read or we don't think that reading is important. We recognise that it absolutely is a skill that students need to have, but we think we can do justice to both by treating them deliberately and separately. So our videos focus on one thing and our quizzes help support students reading and interpreting questions. To try and demonstrate the power of a good video, this is a comparison between a frame from an Up Learn video and some other learning materials from other learning providers. When students are learning, they use something called working memory to piece together what they're seeing and to fit that into their existing understanding. An important thing about working memory is that it's finite. If there's too much to take in, that's when you start to feel like you're hitting a mental wall. So using carefully designed videos rather than relying on pages of text allows us to deliver a small amount of information in each frame and build up to the full picture. That reduces that demand on working memory so that learning feels achievable and kind of positive rather than hard and unpleasant. Three additional features which reflect our understanding of how students learn effectively. We have a refresh knowledge button, which allows students to revisit questions that they completed a while ago or might have got wrong. So they've got the power to routinely revisit previous topics and reinforce those neural pathways. Next, we know that feedback is really important. We use AO marking to check students' answers, and the majority of our questions are paired with pretty detailed explanations to help students understand their mistakes. Students also have access to our online tutor team who can help unstick any tricky topics that they're still struggling with. And finally, videos are user-paced. That means that students can pause when they want, rewind, and control the speed. So if they need a bit of extra time to absorb something or want to rewind and sense check a particular idea, they've got total control over that. Finally, a bit earlier I mentioned smart routing. This is important because in the chemistry GCSE course alone, we have about 300 videos, about 250 information pages, and over 700 quizzes. That is a lot of content, and most students don't need all of that. There are topics that they'll have done in school and feel pretty confident about and don't want to kind of relearn from scratch. So section quizzes, which is what I've got up on screen here, allow us to diagnose the gaps in students' knowledge and identify the stuff they know. This allows us to direct them straight to the lessons they need without having to wade through the stuff they've seen before. So if they get questions correct, they'll get a little pop-up that tells them that they're able to skip a certain number of activities. And if they get questions wrong, we'll recommend and direct them to specific videos and quizzes to help fill those gaps. That's all from me for now. For a bit of an overview of GCSE combined content and how you can use the course in practice with your child at home, I'm going to pass over to Sky.
Great. Hi, everyone. I'm going to start off with some jargon busting. Now, there are loads of confusing ways of describing GCSE science, so let's go through them quickly. The first thing we need to talk about is exam board. Now, the majority of students use AQA, so that's the one we cover. After that, it's broken down further into either separate science or combined science. You may have also heard of them as triple and double. Separate science is easier to explain, so we'll start there. It's three GCSEs, one for each science, and the top grades you can get are 999. Combined science is where it gets a bit more complicated. So first of all, there's two types, Trilogy and Synergy. But since only about 1% of kids take Synergy, I'm going to ignore that one for now and just focus on Trilogy, which for the mathematicians among you, we can calculate just based on those percentages that over half of all students who take any GCSE science will be taking GCSE Trilogy. That's why we're focusing on it. And with Trilogy, you'll still learn all three sciences. You still take separate exams for each. The difference is that the results you get are just aggregated into two GCSEs. So the top grade you can get is 9.9. Unfortunately, the jargon doesn't stop there. We still need to talk about tiers. So for any GCSE science course, there are two tiers, higher and foundation. If your child is predicted a grade 1 to 5, then they'll likely do the foundation tier. If they're predicted 5 to 9, then they'll probably do higher. So what does Up Learn cover? But also we're done with jargon for the most part now, so you can breathe a sigh of relief. So for combined science, 91% of all the material is already on the platform, and the remaining 9% is going to be added bit by bit over the course of the next few months. For separate science, the picture's slightly different. About 75% of topics are on the platform. 6% is going to be added soon, and the remainder is scheduled for around the start of next year. So what does that mean in context? So I want to give a more illustrative example, and because I'm a chemistry lead, it's going to be about chemistry. So yeah, here are all the topics that you'll cover for foundation tier chemistry for AQA Combined Science Trilogy. Yes, it's a bit of a mouthful. Don't worry about that. Don't worry about the topics themselves. It's just for illustrative purposes. So in chemistry's case, all the topics are already on the platform. They're highlighted green for that reason. And that's what they look like. Next, if you look at higher tier, you'll see that the picture's comfortingly similar. Most of the topics that were there in foundation are already there in higher. There's just a few extra topics you need to know. And of course, the questions you get asked in exams are a bit harder because you're testing grades 5 to 9 rather than 1 to 5. So yeah, likewise, the Up Learn course has everything you need to know for each topic from scratch. And then we go to separate science. And similarly, there are a few more topics that you need to know, but this time they're highlighted in reds. So what that means is that those ones currently aren't on the platform and are scheduled to be added early next year. So I imagine people will be thinking at this point, with that in mind, supposing you've got a kid that does separate science, should you be buying Up Learn based on what you know? So I'll try and answer that. So as you can see, there are a few chunks of content that are missing. But for what it's worth, most of that content, or at least for chemistry's sake, is covered towards the end of year 11. So if your kid is in year 10 or below, they may not even need to access most of that content until next year anyway. Not only that, but the content that's highlighted in red is mostly kind of self-contained information that's tacked onto the end of topics. It's not fully essential, foundational topics that you need to know other aspects of the course. So I suppose with that considered, I personally think separate science students of all abilities can derive tons of value from what we have already, even without the missing content. But ultimately, it's up to you guys. It's a judgment call that I think should be made by parents, and it should be done on a case-by-case basis. That being said, if you want further information or some guidance about making that decision for your own child's context, I would definitely suggest you book a call with Alex, and he can run you through it. Nice. So with that in mind, I want to talk through a few different ways of using Up Learn with your children. The first is you can encourage them to kind of steam ahead of the class. So the good thing about Up Learn is it's comprehensive enough to teach topics completely from scratch, which I think is pretty much something that's unique to us versus our competitors. What that means is students can learn content before it comes up in school, gain some confidence, lessons feel familiar, they don't feel overwhelming, and they can spend their time in class mastering the topics and focusing on the trickiest stuff. Another option is consolidating. So a lot of information is going to get thrown at your GCSE kids. They're going to do loads of topics and loads of different lessons in a day. It's important to be able to consolidate all that information and take all those disparate facts and build them into a clear picture. And if you go on Up Learn, a day after or maybe even just a week after, you can do that consolidation and build everything into a complete coherent picture, I suppose. Also good for revising kind of older material. Students don't tend to like doing this. I haven't met any year 11s that say, oh, the first thing I want to do is go back and relearn, revisit year 10 content. Because I think partly because they think they know it already, and partly because, they want to go out and do other things. And also they think that, yeah, I mean, they think that they know it already, basically. So unless there's a looming exam, they don't tend to do it. That's where Up Learn comes in. So we've got innovative section quizzes and refresh knowledge features that make recapping less of a bore and much more engaging by focusing on skipping what they already know and surfacing questions and topics that we know they didn't know to begin with. It's also really good for catching up on missed work. That's actually Up Learn's origin story. So our founder missed loads of school after getting glandular fever. And so in making this company, he kind of created the resource that he wished he had at the time. So yeah, something that could properly teach the content from scratch and help people catch up. Lastly, we're also great for revision. The summary videos that Ella showed you are really good for quick recaps, so students can go in, revisit the topic quickly, identify what they don't know, and then do a deep dive into the content for that part specifically. With that, I want to go over a quick case study. So this is Max. Max was a family friend of mine, and I started helping him out in Easter 2024. It was about 3 months out from his GCSEs, and he just got a 4 in a chemistry mock, and he was doing separate science for what it's worth. So I sat down with him, tried to start right from the beginning, and truthfully, I was quite shocked. Like after a year and a half of studying chemistry, he still couldn't explain what an atom was to me. That's no shade on him. It's just that there are big gaps in his understanding and a lot of work to do in a really short space of time. So that's where Up Learn came in. What we did was we made a plan. Max's job was to just work through as much of the course as he could. And yeah, he was a bit hesitant to begin with. Once we got through the first section together, he started to see the value and realized that he could actually understand stuff, started getting stuff right. From there, we kept things really targeted. We'd do past papers, he'd mark them, we'd look at where the gaps were, and we could do directed Up Learn revision of those topics. Then the next week, I'd test him and we'd fill in any gaps. And over time, we made just incredible progress. And what's more, actually, is that he started to enjoy the subject, something I never thought I'd hear him say to begin with. If effectively at the end, he didn't just pass, he went from a 4 to a very solid 8 in his final exams. Now, obviously, he worked incredibly hard, but his words, not mine, compared to his revision, Up Learn just felt more enjoyable and structured and, yeah, transformed his understanding. As you can see from these messages, he's now gone on to study A-level chemistry and is pushing for an A star, which is amazing progress considering he didn't know what an atom was 3 months out from his GCSEs. Cool. So what can you do to help your child succeed with Up Learn? You can take the same approach I did with Max, and it's definitely something that a proactive parent could emulate. You don't necessarily need a really strong understanding of the subject, but granted, that's a pretty involved thing to do. So there's some other smaller tips. The first thing I'd say is just encourage them to give the platform a chance. So a lot of kids find it quite fatiguing to have to navigate a new platform. They probably worked with lots of them, and they just need a bit of a nudge or a bit of accountability to actually give it a proper go. If we can get them over the initial friction, that's when they'll start to see why we're different and why we're worth their time. It also gives them time to explore all the different features that we offer. So summary videos, section quizzes, video lessons, refresh knowledge. We also it'd be great if you could encourage them to build some sort of regular Up Learn slot into their weekly routine, because even half an hour could be transformative, whether that's for consolidation, pushing ahead, whichever, just having some sort of routine around it. You can also liaise with their teachers, find out what topics they're struggling with and target them. And lastly, to keep tabs on their progress, Up Learn will also, if you connect your accounts, send you a weekly email to parents, basically, letting you know how your kids are getting on. Perfect. With that, that's my segment done, and I'm going to pass back to Ella to talk about impact. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Sky. Yeah, so we don't design our content in a vacuum. We follow a lot of instructional principles to make sure our content is as impactful as possible, but we want to check that with the students who use it as well. So last year, we surveyed nearly 1,600 parents, students and teachers and asked them to evaluate a range of platforms across 4 key areas: content quality, student engagement, and value for money. As you can see from this table, both parents and students ranked Up Learn top for content quality and student motivation. And parents ranked us top for value for money. We didn't ask students about value for money because we know who's probably paying for their Up Learn license. In our 2024 survey, when we asked students about their experience using Up Learn, this is some of the things that they said. Finally, last summer in 2025, we ran a statistical analysis looking at student exam results from our A-level cohort and Up Learn usage. We collected data from 23 schools across the country and over 2,000 exam entries. And here are some of our results. We were really encouraged to find that when Up Learn is used productively, deliberately and routinely, students see significantly better outcomes, both in terms of progress and in terms of their final grade. So at A-level, students are generally targeting that AA star. All of that means that we feel pretty confident in our ability to have a positive impact on student learning, on your children's learning. And it's a direct result of that we're happy to offer a money-back guarantee for grades, both at A-level and at GCSE. And for a bit more information on how that works, I'm going to pass back to Alex.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Ella. So yes, most of you have probably seen that we do guarantee our A-level students at least an A grade in their final exams. So we've decided to extend this guarantee to our GCSE courses too. We're able to offer this 8-8 grade guarantee because obviously Up Learn courses are of the highest quality and contain everything that the students need to get those top grades. So a couple of things to note. Every eligible student is automatically enrolled with each purchase and can start boosting their UP score from day one. Just as a quick recap, UP score is the metric that essentially measures the percentage of course completion. So a really easy way for both you and your children to monitor their progress. Once a student hits and maintains this 90% UP score, we guarantee that they will receive at least an 8-8 grade in the 2027 exams. And if these grades aren't met, just let us know within 14 days of results and we'll process a full refund to the same account. So with that brings the webinar to an end. So I'd like to say a massive thank you to Sky and Ella for speaking and to all of you for attending. As mentioned earlier, there is a QR code here that will allow you to book in a call directly with myself, but feel free to pop me an email too if you'd prefer. Let's take a quick look at the Q&A questions. So the first question here is, can we gain access to Up Learn until summer 2028? Of course you can. There's no limit to how early you can start using Up Learn. For queries for students that are in year 9, it's probably best to book in a call with me and then we can discuss some pricing and the best ways to get your younger kids up and running on the platform. We've also had another question here, which is asking whether we will offer GCSE Maths soon. Now, the plan is that we will be offering a GCSE Maths course. However, we don't have a clear roadmap to when this will be released. Our courses normally take us 2 or 3 years to create and complete, so probably still a way off the GCSE Maths at this stage. One last question. The courses are for students that are sitting their exams this summer as well, not just for 2027. However, the money back guarantee will only come into place for students that are sitting exams in 2027. The reasoning for this is just because we're still adding course content onto the combined science, and we think it would be unfair to be able to guarantee students without providing them absolutely everything that they would need with enough time to study it for the exams. We will be sharing these live, so everyone that's applied with their email address will be getting an email following this webinar with the recording and all the answers to the Q&A too. We have one here from Simon that's asking about the parent dashboard. Yes, you can link multiple students to one parent account. We originally had it set so that it was one parent per student. However, with the launch of these GCSE courses, we know that a lot of parents have students both in A-level age and also at GCSE. So it makes sense for them to be able to monitor both children from the same parent account. If there's any issues with this parent dashboard and you've already set it up and it's just showing one kid, let me know and I'll be able to add that manually. So I think that's all of the questions at this stage. Thank you so much again for attending. Likewise, I hope to hear from some of you soon. Please do book in for a call with any additional questions that you have. Thanks so much.